Hey, never count. I was going to say always bet on black or something like that, but I don't
That's,
know.
I think that's racist.
I don't know. It is the Wesley Snipes line. I don't
Yeah.
know.
I
Okay.
know you're
You
quoting.
know, I'm
Yeah,
always
yeah,
quoting Passenger. Let's start. We
yeah.
started on YouTube, so we're going to get this started right about. What is up, everybody? Welcome to Comic Book Club. I'm Alex.
I'm Pete.
And we're coming to you live from a couple of places on the internet. We're live on Crowdcast, we're live on YouTube, we're live on Facebook. Maybe you're listening later on Spotify, Stitcher, or wherever you get your podcasts. It's all good. Thank you for listening. We appreciate it. And thank you for watching. If you're live, that's awesome too. As you might notice, Justin is not here. He had something to do.
He's so Hollywood now. He's got meetings on meetings,
Yeah,
you know.
he's got a screening. He's got a screening.
Mhm.
He's of his something or other. I don't know.
Something
I'm
he's
not going
doing.
to make excuses for him. Listen, buddy, it's Hanukkah time. It's a miracle
Happy
that you're
Hanukkah
here at
to
all.
you.
Thank you very much. I was going
Yeah.
to say this later, but in case it's gross, I'm just going to introduce it now because maybe I want to drink it. I'm drinking a Hanukkah beer tonight.
Ooh.
It's from Schmaltz Brewing Company, and it's malt beverage. It's not even beer, brewed with raspberry and cherry and natural flavor added. It
Is
has
that malt liquor?
I think it's malt liquor. It's
Okay.
8 malts, 8 hops, and 8% alcohol by volume. So
Well,
I'm going to be
8%.
probably vomiting by the end of the show. It's going to be a good time.
Hey, all right. That's a
All right.
fun Hanukkah.
Well, I'll tell you what, we are going to bring in our first guest now. He is the creator of Solomon Lycan's Odyssey. And here he is, Dennis Robinson, everybody.
Hey, welcome, Dennis. Great to have you.
Hello. Thanks for
Uh,
having me. I appreciate it.
oh my
Yeah.
gosh, thanks for coming on. I said Solomon's Lycan's Odyssey instead of
That's fine.
Lycan's Solomon's Odyssey. I messed it up.
Oh,
Right at the top.
classic. Classic.
Hey, dyslexics are people poo.
Yeah.
Very
Well
nice, very
done,
nice.
sir.
So you kickstarted, I believe, the first issue of this and the second issue of that.
Yes.
This is that correct? And the second issue is in production right now. It's going to come out in
Yes.
March. But just to give the
Wait,
broad
wait.
pitch, yes. What?
Wait. Before we get into this, I just want to say it's nice to have you on. I recognize you from the video where you did some amazing acting, and yeah, just well done, sir.
Thank
Hold
you.
On
on,
that,
you have to go into
it's
detail, Pete. What video are you talking about?
I'm talking about if you go to the Kickstarter page, you get to watch the video. It starts with him in a spooky woods, and it's really fun.
Oh, nice.
Yeah, that was the first one. The second one, I'm actually chained in my basement as my
Oh,
roommate
wow.
is in like a farmer outfit, and he's just nonchalantly chaining me up, and I'm just like, yeah, whatever, not paying any attention to it.
Well, I gotta say also the cane that you have in that is just
Yeah.
so cool.
So I was trying to go for a Larry Talbot, the original Wolfman kind of vibe, but I could not find that cane to save my. Well, I could, but it was like $900, and I was
There we
like,
go.
okay.
There's the truth.
But I
Yeah.
found that one on Etsy, and I was like, I really like the look of this cane anyway. So I was like, all right, we'll go with this one.
Pretty cool.
Well, I appreciate, I will say, we have a lot of Kickstarter folks on here, and I appreciate the extra effort, I guess, that you put into the videos. That's awesome. And obviously, they were successful because the second one is coming out. It's a big, oversized issue. To set up the plot a little bit, it follows the first werewolf in history. Is that correct? I mean, obviously, there's a little more
Nope,
to
you
it,
got it.
but what's your elevator pitch for the book?
So the elevator pitch for the book that I typically tell people, well, the first way that I entice people, I ask them, do you like werewolves? And then obviously, if they say no, then I'm like, all right, well, good
Nice
talking to you.
Yeah.
But so I say, Lycan Solomon's Odyssey is the story of the world's first werewolf. It's set in 8000 BC, and each of these books moves a little bit further along through time and analyzes different mythologies, folklores, and religions and creatures from around the world.
Nice. Well, so how have you developed that mythology over the course of the past two issues? And just to check, the second issue, because I read that earlier today, is that the end of Lycan's Lycan for the moment, or is there more to come?
Oh, so the third book starts production in
Oh,
January.
okay.
So the plan is to try and have a book come out every year. That's the
Okay.
plan, anyways. The problem is, so the first book and the second book are each 60 pages of story with 12 pages of extras. The third book is 90 pages of story, and then probably about 6 or 8 pages of extras, or 10, I forget what it is, how many extras, but it's about 90 pages of story. So it's 50% longer. So, which means it's going to take longer to make because it has to go through the conveyor belt of the artist and then the colorist and then the letterer. So I'm hoping to do another Kickstarter for book 3. I'm hoping for March of 2024, but I won't know until we get closer to the end of the year to be able to gauge where things are, essentially.
Okay. Cool. So this is for people on the audio stream, but we brought up a cover here. Beyond the fact that you've got like this action and adventure in olden times, the first werewolf, you also have some totally gross ghoul creatures here. What was the inspiration behind them?
So, as I mentioned in the elevator pitch, I love mythology, and I love different regional mythologies. So I have a podcast of my own, Botched D&D podcast, and one of the seasons we did was in 1932 New York, and it was like an H.P. Lovecraft theme. And the reason I picked that was because New York is sort of a melting pot of different ethnicities and religions and backgrounds and stuff like that. So I could bring in all these different mythologies from around the world. And so in doing this, I wanted to start in 8000 BC, so I went back before, there's a lot of debate about, which one's the first werewolf. So I was like, all right, let's look at what the first werewolf is. All right, I'm going to go way before that. I'm going to go to the cradle of civilization, basically, even before that. I'm going to start in 8000 BC. And then I looked in the second book, I wanted to do a little bit more world building. As we get into the, open the world up to magic, go into different, monsters and stuff like that. So I looked up Arabian mythology, stories, creatures, things like that. And as a D&D player, I was surprised to find out that ghouls apparently originate in Arabian mythology. And so when I was doing research for the book and trying to figure out what would mesh the best with the story that I wanted to tell, I found the ghouls. And I had this idea in my head. So if you don't know what a ghoul is in terms of, Arabic mythology, they eat the remains of the dead, and then they can shapeshift into whoever that was. And the whole point of it is to entice like that person's loved ones into coming away with them, so then the rest of the ghouls can eat them. So I was imagining, a really nasty, gnarly creature that could also shapeshift. So they have all this like loose, baggy skin, so it could move around and look like clothing or look like skin or whatever it was. So I wanted them to be able to like shapeshift. So I have them this just really horrifying look to them, but it's also a little bit functional in that sense where, because when you go that far back, there's not a ton of description about like what they look like. So I just envision them this way to, I don't know. I thought it was a nice cross between functionality and horrifying.
Agreed.
Speaking of functionality, I wanted to ask you about the page length for these books. I feel like when you do a Kickstarter, normally there's like, geez, I don't know how many people we're going to get. Let's try for like a 20-page book, a 24-page book. But these are huge. These are 60, the second issue at least, is 60 plus pages with some ancillary material in the back. So why go for that? Why go for the oversized book?
So it didn't start that way. So when I first wrote these books years ago, I wrote it in like this weird mutant cross between a regular book and a comic book because I didn't know how to write scripts at that time. Eventually, I came across my first editor who taught me how to write comic scripts, but there was a story that I wanted to tell, and so we had this rough script, and then the editor at that time said, okay, well, it's your first book. If you're funding it all yourself, it's going to cost you a ton of money to do a 60-page book. Let's just chop it down to 24 pages. Now, he wanted to take the 60 pages and make it 24. I said, there's no way we'll lose so much character development and, plot and all that stuff. So I took the 60 pages and I made it two 24-ish page books. But then 24 became 26, and then 26 became 28, and then 28 became 30. So it was two 30-page books became the first book. So what then ended up happening was when the first Kickstarter was supposed to happen for the first 30 pages of the book, COVID happened. So then the Kickstarter got moved a year. By the time the Kickstarter came around, both halves of the book were done. So it's like, well, I may as well just put them back together at this point. So then it went back to being a 60-page book. And then since I'm funding it all myself anyways, and the Kickstarter is just to help recoup a little bit of that cost. Basically, the Kickstarter pays for the printing cost, if anything. I was like, well, I'm just going to do these stories the way that I want to do them. So I'm just going to tell it how I want to tell it. So the second book, I was like, okay, I'm going to write out the story. It just so happened that it ended up being the exact same length. And I was like, all right, that's what we're going to do, which is why the third book, I want to tell that story a certain way. So now it's 90 pages. And the fourth and the fifth. So there's going to be 15 books total in the series. And books 4 and 5 are also probably going to be at least 90 pages long. And the third book is set in Sumeria. So I introduce Gilgamesh and deities and also a little bit of Lovecraft. And then the fourth book is ancient Egypt, and the fifth book is ancient Greece. So, and then each book moves a little bit further along, and I just want to look at different regional mythologies and stuff as this character sort of moves from place to place through time.
I know you touched on this a little bit before, but given that you are talking about real history, or at least real myths here, how much research is involved, and what have you looked at? If people are interested in reading about werewolves, other than Lycan, of course,
Sure.
What should they check out?
So, in terms of research for the first book, most of the research ended up being, okay, let's look up all the different current origins that I could find for werewolves. And there's a saint, there's the Roman one, there's actually one in Greek mythology, there's a whole bunch of different ones like that, but they don't really go too far back. So that's why I went all the way back to 8,000 BC. I wanted to start at the beginning, essentially. And in doing research for that, a lot of the research was, okay, well, there's not a ton of information or pictures or, drawings or anything like that. What did they wear? What were their houses made out of? Because you have to visually show all that stuff. So it's like, okay, well, you don't want to make it look completely implausible for the time period or something like that. So that's a lot of research trying to figure that part out. For the subsequent books, like the second book was a lot of research into Arabic mythology and like looking at all the different stories and folk tales and creatures and just trying to figure out, okay, what would fit in here? Like, this is the story I want to tell. The bones, I guess. What meat can I put on these bones that exist from mythology that I think's interesting, that would lend to the story and just enhance it, I think. Third book, similar, looking up different, Gilgamesh itself, you can look up Gilgamesh. Gilgamesh is a pretty famous, I think a lot of people consider it like the first comic book hero, essentially. Excuse me. And so looking up that story. But I changed his story quite a bit. So that one's not too similar to what he had. This is almost like the origin of Gilgamesh as well. So, and then just, looking up maps, trying to figure out, okay, if I'm going to make this city, because there's already a first city in existence, but this one takes place before that. So it's like, okay, well, where can I put this city that it makes sense for the time period, but is close-ish to the actual or what, our normal history would be the actual first city. So, then pulling up different maps, geography, okay, which one of these spots would make sense for my story as well, along the river, Euphrates or Tigris, I forget which off the top of my head for the third book. And then it's just going into different things like that. And then because of the deities that I had, I was like, okay, so I want to pull in a little bit of Lovecraftian stuff with this and sort of, again, opening up the universe a bit. What can I pull from Lovecraft that would make sense for these deities? And then I found one that made sense immediately that was already going with the story that I wanted anyway. So I was like, oh, okay. So there's lots of different research in terms of like trying to figure out what fits with the pieces that I already have in place. And then, as I move into ancient Egypt, and ancient Greece, and then forward from there, it'll get a little bit more complicated in terms of the research because now those are areas that have a lot more written about them. Now, obviously, ancient Egypt has had a lot of debate lately in terms of when did the pyramids happen and all this stuff. So that one gets a little bit more
We've been talking about it nonstop here on the podcast. We're always debating the pyramids, so no need to tell us.
Sure. But yeah, so it just depends. On the book itself and what's the range of the book to determine how much research is necessary, I would say.
Awesome. That is very, very cool. So if people want to pick this up, obviously the Kickstarter is done, but where's the best place where they can check out the book?
So the website that I have, www.hiveheadstudios.com. You can buy the first book there either digitally or physically. I even have the first 18 pages of the first book there digitally for free. So if anybody wants just to get a taste of it or a sample, they can do that over at the website.
Nice.
And then on the website, there's also a pre-order link in case you want to pick up the second book as well. And the book is in both softcover and hardcover versions as well.
Awesome. Dennis, thank you so much for coming on. Congratulations. Very cool book. Very creepy art with those monsters in particular. And we appreciate your time.
Thank you for having me. I really appreciate it.
All right. Have a good night.
Thanks. You too.
All right. There we go. Once again, I'm going to get it right this time by reading it. It is Lycan, Solomon's Odyssey.
There you go.
I did it this time.
Yeah.
The second issue is, fingers crossed, going to come out in March. And like you said, you can check it out at Hivehead Studios online, or just search for Lycan, Solomon's Odyssey in that order, because that's the actual title of the book. And now we are going to bring our second guest in. James 3. James 3. He's the writer of Bob Phantom as well as Junior on Kickstarter. James, hello, welcome.
Wow, hello.
Oh, man. Great to see you, James 3.
Great to see you.
Oh. Hey, congratulations, man. Sorry, Alex. I'm just
you
going
take
to
it away.
geek out a little bit.
Pete's busting at the seams. He's been very excited to chat with you. Take it away.
Pete, hello. Great to see you.
Great to see you, man. Congratulations on all your success, man. First of all, loved watching you in the sketch comedy. The time traveling dude. It was just hysterical to see you blow the fuck up. And then to see you also in the nerdy realm, extra geek-tastic. This comic book was amazeballs. Congratulations, man. I'm so happy for you. This comic, when I read it, I was like, this is somebody who knows about comics and just telling such a great story. And I was just so impressed, man. Just so happy for you.
That means a lot that you liked it and you liked it to that degree. Thank you. I appreciate it.
No worries, man.
Yeah, just to clarify for people who don't necessarily know you and are not excited like Pete, you were on a Netflix sketch comedy show called Astronomy Club, which people should definitely check out because it's awesome.
Yes. There's one season of that on Netflix, only one, but it's there and you can watch it.
Yes, but the book that we were talking about, at least first, is Bob Phantom, which we reviewed a couple of weeks ago on our Stack podcast and absolutely loved, like Pete said. So this is a rejuvenated version of a very old Archie Comics property, but it takes a look at it in like a very modern context. Yeah. It sort of deals with this broken, not superhero, maybe superhero, plays around with time in a really interesting way. I think this is not to slag off any of the other stuff we've read from Archie, which generally we like a lot of the stuff from Archie, but a lot of these updates are like, what if this old hero was now in 2020s, But this does it in a very different way and really breaks your brain awesomely in the issue. What was the initial pitch? Like, did Archie come to you and say, hey, we're looking to do a new Bob Phantom? Did you pitch them? What was the process like?
Yeah, so I had like a general with them and earlier this year, and they had like a list of things that they were working on, and it was a lot of the anthology things that they do with different various short stories and stuff. And then one shot, which was Bob Phantom, and so I pitched on everything. I sent it like
good for
log
you
lines for everything, and I did. I ended up doing a short story in Jinx's Grim Fairy Tales, and I had a pitch for Bob Phantom. Their log line or their synopsis was like they wanted to bring him back, and they wanted to do like, it's like. It was something like, with the lack of crime in New York, Bob Phantom is now going to be the cause of it's going to be because there's no crime, he has to now make the crime or has to go out and seek the crime, something like that. And so I don't know. My initial take was like, I find it odd to say that there's like a lack of crime in New York. That felt weird to weird to like zero in on that. Like, New York's devoid of crime now, So now a guy has to go around making it for himself. And so I started with like this idea of like okay, he's a newspaper man. He's a newspaper man, and what are the challenges of being in news now? And so of course, fake news and things, and people are screaming about that, and
Yeah.
and social media, and everyone having their phones and stuff. And so I started there, and then sort of built a pitch from that, like, oh, what's someone who is like, it's him against the world almost, you know, and built from there essentially.
One of the things that I really loved slash hated about the book was it was so good and so interesting and such an interesting premise. It wasn't like a one shot in the sense of, oh, okay, it's done and I feel good about this world. It felt like a first
Yeah.
issue and I was frustrated when there wasn't more at the end. I assume that was purposeful on your part.
Yeah, and you are not the only one. I've been shouldn't be reading, but I've been reading every review I could I could find
Oh
about
no.
it, and yeah, the biggest criticism is that, and essentially it is by design in a way. Like I sent them a pitch. The pitch was 4 or 5 pages of stuff that I was like interested in doing, and the one shot had to be 20 pages, and so there was just sort of this thing of like, well, what can I get done in this 20 pages, and like, and how can I, I did whatever I could to make it at least feel like a single issue, but yeah, but there's a whole world of things that I am mostly just setting up dominoes for in this, and so there's a couple moments of like starting to push those dominoes down, but it's not like this is the Bob Phantom story, and by the end of it you're like, great,
Yeah.
I can walk away from this.
Well, but in that way, it almost feels, and this is maybe a wrong comparison, but it feels like kind of one of those season finales where you don't know if you're going to be picked up for a second season or something. And you're like, well, we'll leave a couple of cliffhangers so everybody gets really annoyed if they don't pick it up. So hopefully they do. Is that
Yeah.
any part
Yeah.
of
We
the
want
discussion
more.
at this point?
Yeah, I mean, I throughout was like, well, can I have 5 more pages? Like I throughout kept being like, well, I think I need, and then when it became clear that that wasn't happening, I just was very vocal about like, there's more to this, and obviously to them, they read my pitch, and so they can see that there's like other stuff that I'm interested in doing, and so we both sides knows that there could be more, and I think it all really just depends on like, is the book selling, like,
Yeah.
all of that kind of stuff. But there is certainly more that can, and I think should be explored.
Yeah. One of the
Agreed.
things that I also actually liked about it, without the negative part at the end, like I framed it the last thing, is that it does take place in the Archie Comics world. And I feel like a lot of these superhero books that Archie does, because they're in the Red Circle universe, avoid that entirely. But here we get Archie Comics references, we get Archie Comics characters. Talk a little bit about bringing that in. What were you allowed to bring in? What did you want to bring in?
Yeah, so they did not tell me not to do anything. They were like, write what you're interested in. And so I'm coming from like my I mean, I of course knew about Archie and Josie and the Pussycats and stuff before now, but my like entry point into Archie Comics is like I watched Riverdale and I was like, I love this, and then I started reading current Archie books, so that was my entry point there, and so like I was really coming from, I was just excited about this idea of threading as much as, and I'm a big fan of like what like the MCU and stuff is doing, and how like sort of everything is connected, and not, and so I was just like trying to do that. I was like I want to bring in all these people that I love, I want to bring in Cheryl Blossom, I want to bring in, it was really important to me to be like the black member of the Pussycats, she's in this, like it was just exciting to like to suggest that this is a part of a larger, not just a larger universe, but like an extended universe of things. And it felt like I was also trying to, like, for lack of a better word, make Bob feel legitimate. I mean, and that is really for lack of a better word, but like some legitimacy to like who he is and what's happening. And so that was where those other characters kind of came from.
Well, I think that worked really well, and it was Valerie, right? Who
Valerie,
yeah, Valerie is the one. She's so in this book for anybody who hasn't read it yet. She has a show on Broadway. I think she's doing Phantom of the Opera.
She's doing Phantom. Yeah.
So
You see that? You see what you did there?
Yeah, so she's doing Phantom, and they used to have a thing, and so she's sort of like the. I don't know, I'm blanking on the word, but sort of like that mystery character that like the detective used to date a little bit. And what I really loved about that, beyond bringing in an Archie Comics character, is like you're saying, it sets him up in this world. It implies, even if you've never heard of Bob Phantom before, don't know what the comics are, didn't know that was a previous Archie Comics, you're like, oh, he has this whole history before this, which I really appreciated. I feel like you don't get that a lot in books. It's usually like, this character was just born right now,
Right.
is a fresh baby on the first page, and now we're going to find out about them. So when you were trying to tackle that, did you sketch out some story stuff at all for him leading up to this, or was it just sort of seeding those things in as you went?
No, it came from like it really started with, so I gave him this thing of having like a wild imagination. And so it started with like his wild imagination leading to him like making connections that either are not there or are there. And so it came from that. It came from like, what do I know about the Archie universe, and like, and what can be, I always like in things where someone, like things from the past where someone's like, we could have an internet of, where someone like invents the internet before the internet exists. And so I was trying to do something like that with him, like where like he has his nose on or his finger on the pulse in a way that that like the people around him think is outlandish or wild, but like to anyone that knows like, oh yeah, he's right, like Cheryl Blossom is into witchcraft and and that guy is actually I can't remember, his name is escaping me, but Captain Flag is actually a vigilante, and so it came from that. It came from me sort of trying to just connect dots that I already understood to already exist.
Yeah.
Nice.
Now I do want to ask you about another project that you have going right now, Junior. It's a comic that you have on Kickstarter. You currently have 46 days to go, and you're doing pretty well. I think you got $7,730 out of your $10,000 goal as of right now, so congratulations. But talk to us about Junior. What's the concept of that book?
Okay, so Junior is, so I'm James the Third. Right? So I just want to remind people that I'm James the Third. So Junior is a story about a father-son, kind of almost like it started as a screenplay, so like almost workplace comedy between a father and son set in the afterlife. So it's essentially this story where I kind of imagine a scenario in which I meet my dad after death. He passed away when I was really young, and it's a comedy. It's set in a Tim Burton style like afterlife with a lot of kooky characters and bizarre settings, and while there's this sort of like reunion and kind of afterlife existence happening.
Cool. So what's your experience been on Kickstarter so far? I know we talked about it a little bit with our first guest, but I'm curious to hear from you.
I mean, so this is all very new to me. This is I have been a part of campaigns with other people, but this is my first time doing a Kickstarter by myself. It's been fun to say the least, and to kind of not really talk about the stuff that's been hard about it, but it's been cool, and I've been surprised to see like the people show up in this way for the book. Nice. I will echo something that Dennis said, like it did self-fund a lot of this, and so the point of the Kickstarter is like to now deliver it, get it out, to have a launching platform for the books for people to actually read them. It's been, in terms of the process of working on the book itself, it's been about a little over a year. in change, and and working with my artist Marcus Kwame Anderson. He's been really great. He's been coming in with a lot of he's been really receptive to my thoughts, and then also been coming in with a lot of really great ideas of his own, and so it's been really, really fun.
We got a question here in the comments. This is from Kevin. Do you have any upcoming voice work? I assume other
this is
than
a great
podcast
question, Kevin.
That you're taking right
this podcast is voice work that I'm currently doing. But yes, I have a regular character that I play in a PBS Kids show called City Island. It comes out, I think, the 26th or 27th. It comes out at the end of this month, or next week. Oh my God, what is time? It comes out next week. And so that's some voice work I have, and then I don't know if this is announced. Well, never mind. That's it. Just that.
You can just announce
that
it.
in this podcast.
Just announce it here on the show, James.
Yeah,
it's fine.
I'm allowed to announce.
Yeah,
I'm allowed to break. I can be deadline. I can. Nothing crazy, but I was about to say it's fine.
All right, we'll skip it. We'll cut out that part, I'm sure, at some point. Kevin also mentioned
Wait, hold it. Squirrel Girl. That's not upcoming though. Didn't that already happen? Isn't Squirrel Girl? I was on the Squirrel Girl, the Marvel Squirrel Girl podcast. Wow,
yes,
Squirrel
that
Girl
came out. What did you play on the Squirrel
really
Girl podcast?
Hard to say that.
It is.
I was a variety of different, I have 3 lines in every other episode. Or
Awesome.
Cool.
So yeah.
That's so cool. Wow, Kevin's just dropping all of your credits here.
Oh, hey, Kevin. I now know who this is. Hi, Kevin. Nice to hear from you. Kevin, it's been too long. We'll off mic, Kevin.
Yes. No, Kevin actually only exists now in the comments. It's this whole Tron situation that happened. Don't even worry about it. I'm very excited about both of these books. I'm excited about Junior. Love Bob Phantom. I hope we get more of it. Do you have any other comics work coming up that you can talk about?
So Junior is a part of. So I'm launching a comic book company. It's called Rule of 3.
Wow.
The Roman numeral 3. And Junior is the first of what will be many books that I've already started working on. I have previews of 3 more.
Wow.
One is a kind of very, very run-of-the-mill superhero story. Oh no, we have, the thing that has caused us to be superheroes has now put villains out into the world. We must stop them. Very, very, very cookie-cutter superhero story. I have another book that's like a kind of surrealist TV nostalgia book that is based off of a character I used to play called the Black Friend in a White Show, which is essentially the only representation of Black people that I saw growing up was the Black friend in things. And so the book is sort of based on it's a guy in a therapy session talking about his life, and as he's talking about his life, we're seeing him as Zach the Black Power Ranger, or Winston from Ghostbusters, and Skeeter from Doug, and all that stuff, or versions of them. It's obviously don't have the rights to.
Yeah,
I don't have the rights to any of those characters, but it's versions of that. And then I have a horror comedy about essentially being a magical Negro is a real thing that happens to Black people when they turn a certain age, and so this is a guy slowly turning into a magical Negro, and it kind of has horror comedy vibes to it.
Sounds amazing.
And if you donate to the Kickstarter, there's one of the tiers you can get digital previews of those books. But hey, if I exceed my goal, then maybe physical copies of those previews can exist sooner rather than later.
That's awesome. All of that stuff sounds great.
Yeah,
James, congratulations on all the success and everything. Loving these books, and again, fingers crossed. I hope we get more Bob Phantom because I love that first issue.
Yeah.
Thank you. Yeah, thank you so much. Thanks for having me, and thanks for chatting with me. It's been great.
Oh, thanks for coming on. We're going to banish you to the Kevin zone now is what's going to happen.
Okay, great.
Bye.
Take care.
All right. right, there we go.
Oh,
Once again, you
man.
can get Bob Phantom one shot from Archie Comics. Junior is on Kickstarter. Also, check out Astronomy Club on Netflix because it's super fun. And I don't know, maybe we can make the
Yeah,
next
check out everything he
manifest.
does, man. Dude is hilarious. Everything he does is just absolutely hilarious. So
There we
always
go.
a
We
win.
are going to move on with our next section, which is my favorite section because you all make it up. It is your audience questions. And for audience questions, all you got to do is drop a question in the Q&A section over here on Crowdcast,
Or the tube.
or on the tube. You can drop it in the comments as well. Either way is fine. Facebook, I don't know what's going on over there. Don't even worry about it. But there you go. But first, Pete, I talked about what I was drinking. This is pretty gross, by the way, this jelly donut malt liquor beverage. Not too
I
surprising.
noticed you went to a glass there. Didn't want to
I
drink
poured
out
it
of
in a glass to feel fancy.
Yeah.
But yeah, I would not recommend this, I guess, is what I would say. What are you
Right,
drinking?
put it in the glass didn't help it. I am drinking a brewed in St. Louis beer called Summer Lager, Hell Style Lager. It's a 4.5. So, all right, it's very light and delicious.
There we go.
It's like
I
a
wish I was
sunny day
drinking
in a
that
can.
instead. We've got a couple of questions that are piling up here over at Crowdcast, so let's go to that first. This one is from Nat Townsend.
Oh boy, here we go.
Are there any baby books that you would recommend? I'm talking real babies under 1 year old. Great question. Thank you for coming to our book club to ask about these books. We appreciate it. For babies under 1 year old, I would say it depends on whether you want the babies to read them or you're reading to the babies. You probably heard of this guy, Dr. Seuss. He's pretty good. My
doctor.
youngest, I used to read Cat in the Hat on a loop, sometimes 5 or 6 times in a row to put her to bed. And there's one of my favorites, though, to read to the kids when they were that age is Are You My Mother by Dr. Seuss. It's not by Dr. Seuss, but it's from the same imprint, which is very good. Pete, you have any baby books you've been reading lately?
What's the Art Belfazar like DC
Tiny Titans?
Yeah, Tiny Titans. Anything those guys do, Franco and Art, those guys are unbelievable, and it's fun kids books. I'm not sure about babies, but maybe you can show them the pictures and make some fun faces when you're reading to them. The important thing is you just you keep them alive. You know what I mean?
Oh, yeah, that is the important thing. One thing I would not recommend. Have you ever read a book called Love You Forever, Pete?
No.
So here, I'm going to see if I can load this up. There is this book called Love You Forever that we were gifted, and I think everybody ends up with this in their bookcase somehow, no matter what. Basically, it is this book about a mom who holds her baby, and every time she holds her baby, she says, and I'm going to paraphrase here, I'm not going to get it right, but she says, I love you forever. I love you for always, forever and ever, my baby you'll be. And it's very sweet. And you're like, oh, okay, that's cute. And every night she goes in and cradles her son and says that. And they show her son just getting older and older and older over the course of the book. And it's like, okay, she should probably stop doing this at some point. And then he moves out of the house and she's still, and I'm not joking about this, this is like a very serious children's book. She puts a ladder up to his house, sneaks over to his house at night, crawls into his window and cradles the full grown adult and says the rhyme to him, and it's legit the creepiest thing. It's so weird that she does this, and it ends up in a place where at the end of the book she's very old and he comes in,
Yeah,
and
he says it
cradles
to
her,
her,
and you
like,
get
you
it.
can
But
see
this is
that
the
setup
point where it's
coming.
like, this dude is married, stop crawling in his window, stop cradling him, this is weird. So there you go.
Yeah, I mean the thought behind it is nice. It takes a little weird turn, but at least it's a nice thought.
It sounds like maybe your mommy does this, Pete. Is that what I'm getting here?
Just James 3 over here in the comments is saying she loves him forever. That's right. That's what's happening here. I don't know what.
I'm sorry that I'm taking exception to this. You're right. This is normal human behavior. You're right, guys.
I'm not saying it's normal human behavior. I'm just saying there's a point to these stories. That's kind of why they're kid stories.
We have a good follow-up question here from the comments over on YouTube. The real question is, why does Nat care about baby books? Does he have one? That's an interesting question. Maybe Nat can let us know in the comments. Last week or a week ago, he had adopted a cat that he was trying to give away. Maybe now the same thing happened with a baby. Maybe he found a baby on the street. And
Yeah,
he's
maybe
trying
he
to get
found
rid
a baby and he's trying to give one away.
Yeah, that's totally possible. This is another question here from Stray Bullet. Are you guys excited about James Gunn writing the new Superman script and you're looking forward to the DCU reboot? Pete, do I need to inform you about any of these items of news?
Thank you. No, I'm scared. I'm a little appalled. I'm a little worried. At first, I was super excited about the news, but then when he was like, Wonder Woman's over, Aquaman's over, I'm cutting and burning, and now I'm gonna reboot Superman. I'm kind of like, oh, do we need a Superman movie right now? Is that what we need? I don't know. So yeah, I'm a little. I mean, he does unbelievable work. I enjoy his work. I was blown away by his work, so I should probably just shut the F up. But I'm a little concerned.
I think my overall concern with everything DCU is I'll believe it when I see it, which is a variation on everything that I've been saying before. But like you're saying, James Gunn does good work. Happy to see a young Superman movie. That sounds good to me. I always like a good Superman movie. So if it's a good Superman movie, 2 thumbs up. That's great. But at the same time, they already started off with Superman several times. Like they had Christopher Reeve Superman. And they're like, okay. And now we're going to do a couple of Batman movies. And that's it.
Superman was great.
No, they're great, but like nothing really spun out of that. And then they were like, Man of Steel is going to kick everything off. And people were like, well, we feel very mixed about this movie. And they're like, here's a couple more. They're all bad. And you're like, okay, please stop. And now they're like, we're going to reboot the whole universe. We're going to start with a Superman movie. And I'm like, come on, guys.
Come on.
Like, yes, I understand the impulse there. And I understand you're not going to start with a Mr. Terrific movie, even though that would be a lot of fun. But I think there's something to being like, and I'm getting very repetitious here, but these movies that James Gunn and company are making are not going to come out until the very earliest 2024 and more likely 2025. By that point, there is every chance James Gunn has left DC, Warner Brothers has been bought by something else, they've scuttled the Superman movie, or they put out like one Superman movie, you're like, we got to reboot DC. So I don't know. I kind of feel like go for broke. Don't play the safe route with Superman. Do the Suicide Squad like they did. Do Harley Quinn and the Birds of Prey. Put out as much weird stuff as you can as quickly as possible because it's going to go away. Everything in Hollywood is cyclical on a span of like 3 to 5 years. It's insane that Marvel has gone on as long as it did, and it's only because it has had nonstop box office dominance. They're not in that place yet. They just got to go totally nuts. That's all. But I don't know. I guess we'll see what happens. If it's a good Superman movie, it's a good Superman movie. We got, this is from John Dorsey, a follow-up over on YouTube. Can we identify a really nice choice for an all-new clean slate Superman casting since Cavill is out? That's a great question. Who would you like to see as a younger Superman? Other than you, of course, Pete.
Henry Cavill.
Henry Cavill, a younger time-traveling Henry Cavill?
Yeah, that's exactly right. Yeah.
Okay. Really? Henry Cavill is your number one choice for Superman?
I feel like he hasn't gotten a shot to play Superman yet, as weird as that is to
Got
say.
like 3 to 4 shots.
Yeah, I don't know, man. It just, he seemed like fine, he wasn't the problem in the Superman movies. I'm hoping to be blown away by a young Superman story. The problem is I've read a lot of amazing comic books on this same subject, so I don't know. But, I'm sure there's a guy out there, and I'm sure it'll be great, hopefully.
I don't know if he's totally the right choice, but the first person that came to mind, and this is when they were last casting Superman, I kind of felt this too. We're just going to keep on the Riverdale bent all day. Charles Melton, who plays Reggie, kind of feels
Reg.
to me, right? Like he's hunky and he's funny and like he has the
Got
right
a great
look.
jawline for it.
Got a great jawline for Superman. And I feel like as Reggie, he plays a dumb meathead, but he's done a lot of different other things, and he's a good actor. I think that would be fun. I saw somebody call out Justin H. Min as well. I think that would be fun. Yeah, I don't know. If there are any Stray Beans over here says Tilda Swinton. There you go. Great. Love it. Yeah, we'll see. I don't know. I think those would be good choices, whoever they cast. Just do it quick because time's running out to do any of those DC movies. We got one last question here over on Crowdcast. That's from Kevin. What's a revival that really surprised you?
I really don't know what you mean. When you say revival.
Like a church revival. Like you've been to a go to a tent. You're like, I don't know about this. It's in a tent. I don't like camping. There's bugs out here. And you go there, and suddenly you find your spirit.
They dip you in water. They say you're baptized,
like,
and it's really magical. Yeah.
Yeah, it's a whole musical number.
Yeah.
No, like Willow, I would say is a revival, something that is a continuation of an older property rather than a straight reboot of it.
I have been pleasantly surprised with Willow. I think that's been really fantastic.
Yeah, that's been a great one. That's obviously the most recent one. I don't know. I don't know why I'm blanking. This is like a little bit of a spoiler, but the new Interview with the Vampire on AMC, I would kind of consider a revival because they have this really interesting way of having almost a totally different story, almost a totally different direction, but not negating anything that happened previously, either in the books or in the movie, and sort of all weaving it together on this idea of how we remember things and how we tell stories, which I thought was very fascinating. If you haven't checked out that show, it's like 6, 7 episodes, something like that, and the first season is awesome. So that's really good.
All right.
And we got one last question here, actually, that I'm going to throw out as which I feel like we should answer. This is from Nat Townsend. Hey, what are your favorite comics of the past year? That's a great question, Nat, and I would love to answer that next week on our live show when we will be revealing our top 10 comic books.
He's really been honest about doing this, and it's like, hey, we have a whole special year in review thing that we do.
We do. It's going to happen next week. And
is he worried we're not going to do it? Is that what's happening?
No, he wants us to let him know before he has to shop for presents, which is a very consumerist way of looking at it. We're thinking about the art. We're thinking about the artist. He's thinking about like money and buying things from shops and whatever, so not the same thing, Nat.
I'm sorry, Nat. Well, I guess we're not as Christmas set up as, we should be as a podcast. We're not as.
Yes, we don't really get those Amazon referral links necessarily the way that he does. But just to reiterate again, we are going to have best comics of the year. We're going to reveal our picks that are going to be mixed in with some of your picks next week on the live show. And then on the Stack podcast, we're going to reveal our best trade collections or original graphic novels of the year.
You think we'll fight? You think we'll get into a big fight?
No, I think we're going to have like total agreement on all picks. I think it's going to be great. So I'm very excited about that. And Pete, thank you for getting your picks in early. Like how he is showing up to the show, Justin hasn't gotten them here yet. So there you go. Why don't we move to our next section, which is my favorite section other than audience question, because it's Pete's section and I like Pete. It is trivia.
All right. Yeah. So do we have somebody, or we're looking for a brave volunteer? We're looking for someone to win a $25 gift card to Midtown Comics online, because if you had $25, you go to a comic book shop. Or, of course, Long John Silver. For some reason, we did a bit earlier, and now we're stuck with Long John Silver gift cards.
So far, only one person has taken us up on the Long John Silver's gift card.
Yeah, and how deep are you? Got like 40 long, because you thought these things would be going like
I bought a franchise, man. I bought a franchise, and I'm like way in the hole at this point.
Oh man.
Stray Beans over on YouTube said me first. David Quinley said me seconds later, but so Stray Beans, I think it is you. Stray Beans, all you got to do is drop the answer in the comments. There's a little bit of a delay, so just maybe I'll feed it to you and we'll see what happens. But Stray Beans, you're in.
Yeah, we'll just do a little vamping.
There you go. Yeah, we're good at that.
Oh, yeah, so good. All right, so today's trivia is not on topical news, but there is a small nod to the legend Stephen Boss, R.I.P. Twitch. Please listen to all three options before making your selection. And in honor of Alex Zalbin, that's right, old Zalbs, for all the work that he does.
Oh, my
Today's
goodness.
trivia isn't trivia because I know how much that really bothers you. All right, here we go. Question number 1. Which actual name would you want to trade for yours? That's right. I'm asking you, which of one of these actual names would you like to trade for yours? So, is it A, Allison Stoner, B, Uzi Man, or C, Mark Tallman? So, of the
Question?
three,
Who are you asking right now?
I'm
You're
asking this person, this lovely
Beans.
individual who's listening to our show, if they had to switch names, which one would they choose? I go with Uzi Man myself.
So this is even less fact-based than usual.
That's right, because this bothers you, and I
So
want to
much.
I want to honor you in a nice way.
You're honoring me by bothering me. I get
That's
it.
right. Just
Okay,
like
can
how you
give
show
the
me
answers
affection.
again? Because I was very confused personally, so I have to imagine Stray Beans was. So A was Allison. Would you like to be named Allison Stoner?
Yep. Or
B-
Uzi Man.
Would you like to be named Uzi Man? That's B.
Yep.
And C was
Mark Tallman.
Mark Tallman. Stray Beans says C. Was that the correct answer?
That is, yes. Well
Wow.
done. Well
Oh,
done.
great.
All right,
Stray
great.
Beans is now named Tallman. I know what I'm talking about.
Okay,
This makes
here we
sense.
go. Question number 2. Which actual name would you want as your porn name? Because this is in honor of you, Zalbin, and you like to do weird, inappropriate stuff. So here we go.
Oh, sure.
Which would you like as your porn name? Is it A, Jennifer Van Dyck, B, Luke Brodlick, or C, Caitlin Brodnick? So of those, which would you like as your
Sorry,
porn
just
name?
your porn name would be Jason Brodick. What did you just say?
Caitlin Brodnick.
Caitlin Brodnick. That's a porn name?
Yep.
Where did you come up with these? Or is that
They're
part of
actual
the-
names. They're actual names.
Actual porn names?
No, actual names.
Actual names. Oh, Stray Beans says Feet LePage.
All right, we'll count that as a D option. All right, here we go. Last one.
That's appropriate to have a D option with a porn.
Oh, there it is, Alps. See? You're having fun.
I'm back!
Yeah! All right. Which actual name would you trust to be your doctor? Is it A, Dr. Frank Moron, B, Dr. Casper Smart, or C, Dr. Peter Conboy? Which of those would you
I know
like?
this one because you go to the doctor. Of course, you go to Peter Smart, right?
It's
But
Peter
Peter-
Smart is not an option. It's
But
Casper.
Peter Smart is
Casper
actually
Smart.
operated, like he can't be a doctor for himself. He's operated on by Joseph Dumb, and that's how that works. I figured it out. You ask the door that always lies whether he knows the truth, right?
What?
Stray Bean says C with a question mark.
See, all right. He would go with, that's an interesting choice. I would think Casper Smart, but I mean, it kind of says he's dead, so maybe not go with the ghost. But yeah, Peter
Wait,
Conboy.
I'm sorry, Casper Smart is dead because his first name is Casper, like Casper the Friendly Ghost.
That's right. Yeah, that's what you have to assume.
This was, and I say this, we've been doing the show now for over 16 years, as we established as of the 18th. The most nonsensical thing you've ever done.
Well, this is honor of you, so you're welcome.
I'm not owning this in any way. This has nothing to do with me.
And of course, these are all actual actors from the 2010 long-awaited third movie in the Step Up series, Step Up 3D. So, and again, in honor of something that me and Zalb have in common, love of the Step Up movies.
Absolutely. And Stray Beans, congratulations. You said, this is trivia, worst trivia ever. Kind of agree, but guess what? You still won a $25 gift card to either Long John Silver's or Midtown Comics, or, just like some make up a nonsense thing that you want $25 to. It's fine. Email us at comicbookclublive@gmail.com. And now, Pete, as we all know, new comic books are coming out all the time. There's tons of great ones that are coming out this week. What are you looking forward to most?
Oh my God. So I got top 3 right now. Something is Killing the Children, number 27. Oh, what a doozy of an ish. Chroma, number 2, and Berserker, number 11. Just there's a lot of great comics that came out this week, and I can't wait to talk about them.
Yes. I'll second Chroma number 2. If you didn't check out the first issue of this takes place in a world that is all black and white and gray, and they are scared of this being that you don't get to see called the King of Colors. But there's a lot of twists and turns in here. There's a huge cliffhanger at the end. It's all written and drawn by this guy, Lorenzo De Felici, and it is an absolutely stunningly gorgeous comic book. I was definitely very excited about the second issue that was come out this week. I'll also give a shout out to the Dark Web event, something that I was not particularly looking forward to, but released like 15 issues this week and turns out to be very, very fun from Marvel. That's basically Inferno 2, but silly, is kind of what's happening in the Marvel Universe. So it's a fun time. And folks, that is it for this week's show. Woo-hoo! Couple of people we want to thank. We want to thank Dennis Robinson for coming on. Check out Lycan Solomon's Odyssey. The first issue is out now. The second issue is coming out later this year. Also, James 3rd. James 3. Bob Phantom from Archie Comics. Also, check out Junior on Kickstarter right now. Go support that so we can get plenty more great comics from him. Next week on the show is going to be a big one. As we mentioned, we're going to be revealing our best comic books of the year. And also, our guest is going to be Kyle Starks, one of our absolute favorite on the show, and he's going to be talking about his new Dark Horse Comics book, Where Monsters Lie, that's coming out next year, so that should be pretty awesome. Other podcasts you can check out from us, The Doom Room, our Doom Patrol podcast running every Thursday. Marvel Vision, our Marvel podcast. We're currently rewatching movies with some special guests. Very fun. Yeah. I believe this week we have Doctor Strange coming up with a real-life magic expert, Matt Donnelly, who fact-checked the magic with us. Very fun podcast. I'm excited for everybody to listen to that one. Patreon.com/Comic Book Club to support the show and all the shows we do. Don't forget to subscribe on Apple, Android, Spotify, Stitcher, or the app of your choice. At Comic Book Live on Twitter, Comic Book Club Live on Instagram, Comic Book Club Live on TikTok, comicbookclublive.com for this podcast and many more. Until next time, good night.
Take care of yourself out there.
Thanks, everybody. Have a great night.